but we can take some comfort in each other through verse.
Welcome, everyone, to Between the Lines Poetry Festival of Singapore edition. Today, we have an exciting lineup of poets from all around the world and several from my home country, Singapore. And I am here. I'm Kemlyn Ton Bappy. I am your host for this evening, along with Lucian.
Hello, I'm Lushan Tan.
Yes, and Lucian will be our technical director today. And so we are excited to have him casting from Maine. I am casting from Phoenix, Arizona. All right, without further ado, our theme today and for the festival is Sojourners. So you will be hearing poems about the idea of journeys and the trips that we make and the different interpretations of what that means. Tonight we have members of the core poets of Between the Lines, which meets meetly on Zoom every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Singapore time. We also have a group of Catharsis poets who have been invited to read with us from Singapore and from other countries. And then we have some very special guest poets who are joining us as well. Tonight, you will also experience some videos from a few poets who really wanted to be here in person. However, because about four of them are competing in another competition in Singapore right now as we speak, they have sent their videos in, and a couple of people who are traveling or unwell and have asked Lucian and myself to read on their behalf, as well as show their video. All right, so that's what's coming up. Yo Ka-ing Kawasami is a 14-year-old, one of our youngest students, poets tonight, and she is a singer-songwriter as well as a poet, and she is a multi-instrumentalist, well-versed in folk, classical, musical, and pop vocals. So, without further ado, I welcome you on stage.
Thank you very much. I am really happy to be here. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kawasemi, and I am going to recite my poem called Koi. 2, 3, 4. Spots are just one. Shimmering scales, looking like a flower in bloom. Lucky as a clover, swimming as if they hover. Luck follows where they go. Red, orange, yellow, blue. White, black, cream, and brown too. Koi. Stand out from the crowd, swim happily and proud. Koi. Swimming in the pond, graceful as a swan. Living day to day, head with a crown. Long flowing fins, long living things. Dabbling in the color, painted like flowers. Red, orange, yellow, blue. White, black, cream, and brown too. Koi. Stand out from the crowd, swim happily and proud. You're my precious Koi. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Mhm. You're my precious koi. Ah, love it.
Really nice.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much, Kawasami. Yeah.
ಅದೇ ಚೂಡಾಗಿದ್ದಾನೆ ಪಾರಲ್ಲೆಡ್ತು.
All right, everyone, go ahead and mute yourself, and we're going to go to our next guest. We have Ehsan Sakai, and Dr. Sakai is a university lecturer in Australia, in Sydney. He has published several books and with tons of experience teaching around the world. And he has co founded a not for profit organization called Street Poet and wants to empower people in self expression through creativity and poetry. Please welcome Dr. Sakai.
Thanks very much, Kimlin, and uh, really grateful to connect with all of you. So my poem Well, I have two, and I will be reading out the poems in Persian and then in English. So the first one is called "Oh God." ای خدایا چقدر تو عشقی، چقدر زیبایی، دنیایی، ای یار من، ای هم نفس که هر نفس از توست و برای تو. So the translation: Oh God, you are so much love. You are so much beauty. You are the world. Oh, my friend. Oh, my breath. For each breath is from you and for you. It's a short poem. The second one is called Who Am I? جز مال تو چیست، چیز دیگری نیستم. جز ما مست تو چیز دیگری نیستم. هرچه هستم، هر جا که هستم، فقط مال تو هستم. ای یار من، چیستم جز مال تو، چون چیز دیگری نیستم جز مال تو. So the translation: Besides yours, I am nothing. Besides being intoxicated in you, I am nothing. Whatever I am, wherever I am simply yours, my friend. What am I but yours? For I am nothing but yours. Thank you.
Everybody go ahead and unmute and give your roses to Dr.
I was very
Sakai.
happy to catch a few words in Persian. I'm very happy about that. We seem to have several words common in Hindi.
That's right. Thank you.
And
Your
the
short poems carry so much of meaning, loaded with meaning. Thank you for your poems.
and thank you for sharing bilingual poems as well, so that we can enjoy the musicality of Persian as well as giving us clues on how it might feel in content in English, so that we could associate those sounds, those beautiful lyrics with meaning.
Very meaningful poem. Very nice.
Mm.
Really enjoyed that.
Thank you so much again. Up next, we have Stephanie Clarissa. Stephanie is a highly creative writer and enjoys marketing and journalism. She is a graduate of Murdoch University in journalism, media, and communication studies, and writes a lot of articles, much more than I do. She enjoys working with people like Motherhood Magazine, Success Resources, Singtel, and Abbott. So, welcome on board.
Hi everyone, I'm Stephanie Clarissa and I'm from Singapore. Thank you, Cameron, for that introduction. Okay, so here goes. My poem is called Life's Remedy. Placate your heart into moments of giving to yourself, justice to yourself. Let the triggers flow smoothly. It only makes sense to let go. Consume your emotions and turn them into bursts of joy as it comes naturally. The pain, the anguish, the suffering, they will all depart from your body. Believe in your soul. It expects a fervent energy to live through escapades that might be mighty enough to tear your senses away. Surrender to your being as it yearns to be reconciled, one with your baffled mind, to trudge lightly and meticulously through rugged storms. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Beautiful words, Stephanie. Really enjoyed. Beautiful. Art is so beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
And great.
Simple and smooth flowing. Simple diction, smooth flowing. Loved it.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed.
Very nice.
I enjoyed
Very nice.
these words to inspire us in life and to give us courage. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
All right. Lucian, you are queuing up our next reader. Jane Lynn Dupingue is not a stranger in the poetry scene in Singapore. She's highly active in the migrant worker writers of Singapore community, a community of people from different countries who are working as migrant workers, and she's a part of an NGO that provides online education on how to help people who are living in Singapore who are migrants as well. She's the author of the book Language of My Heart, and she's originally from the Philippines. All right.
Did a session of moderation. Good day, everyone, at Poetry Festival Singapore. Standing to my left and my partner in crime, Jane Lynn Dupingue, who is a very well-known name in poetry circles in Singapore. And both of us are delighted to share with you a duet of our poetic offerings to the theme Sojourners. And without giving too much away, this all came into being during the last Singapore Poets and Writers Month in 2023, where Jane and her team did a session of moderation. And I was really impressed by her poem, which I'm gonna request her to read in a few seconds. And I also contributed by way of a poetic response to the original poem. So without further ado, Jane Lynn Dupingue.
Thank you so much, Sir Neil, and it's a pleasure to be here at the Poetry Festival Singapore. And this poem was inspired and written through it's a poem response to a photo by Yulia Endang, which you can see on the below this video. So the title is Home. I want to go back to where I grew up, a place full of love, simple and beautiful. I want to run once more into the green rice field, catch the grasshopper and chase the birds away. I want to feel the morning dew underneath my bare feet while watching the sunrise coming out from the mountain. I want to go for a long walk and visit the guava tree that used to carry my weight while happily gathering its fruits. I want to go back to the place where my cradle began to rock, when my feet had its first step, and where my heart finds its peace. That's all.
Wonderful. So, my poem is titled We'll Be Back, and a large part of the Sojourner theme is about making that U-turn and returning home. So, we'll be back. Before I get into it, I must say that I kept most of the lovely metaphors you had in there, the guava tree and the grasshopper. They were just so fantastic. I had to almost plagiarize your poem, so here goes. We'll be back. Most movement is merely muscle memory. The fulcrum of your feet, step to sure-footed strides, padding through paddy fields, lush locomotion, hurry slowly. The grasshopper who greets you did not star in The Last Emperor. In his hop, there is hope, rejoicing your return to these terraced lands, the dual seasons of hot and hotter. Warm your now city dweller feet. The sun plays peekaboo, as it has always done. For all the years you have been absent, the guava tree will not reproach you. Her branches readied in embrace, the dew from your eyes matches the damp on the ground. It is okay to cry. You're back, home and dry. The germ of your next chapter hiding in the green, green grass, which you now touch tentatively, much as you might dip your toe into a river that has changed, but then so have you.
Wow, that's very nice. That's very
Oh.
nice.
And would you believe it? Jane has come into the room, and I'm so excited. I wasn't expecting her to be able to join us. So welcome, Jane Lynn Dupingay. Uh, please unmute everybody and give this duet a round of applause and give them their roses, and then I'll introduce the second part of the duet and his poem.
Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of call and response.
Yeah.
This is the heart of Between the Lines. We are a call and response show. We're not necessarily an open mic. We are a very organic community space where we share things from our heart, sometimes works in progress. And then we as poets respond, and artists respond to one another's art forms. And when Neil encountered Jane Lynn's beautiful poem on Singapore Poetry Writing Month, he wrote in response to her, and I'm so glad that they had a chance to record this together. So, welcome again, Jane. If there's anything you would like to add, I would love to invite you to speak. But I think Dr. Molly has something to say before I introduce Neil Deswani.
Yeah, sure. I was so impressed by the sync, the kind of combination of the duet part of it. It rendered real life to that and to the very flow of the theme. Loved it. It was a lovely experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Molly. All right. So, the second half of the duet is Mr. Neil Deswani. Neil is a Singapore poet and has authored 6 books. You can find his work on sale at Kinokuniya. And then he is also not a stranger to the literary scene. He has presented at the Jaipur Literatures Festival, and he has also been a part of Singapore Writers Festival. So, and in 21, he was at the Bangalore Literature Festival as well. So, the Shades of Truth were launched in March 2022 at the Singapore Book Bazaar. So, Neil has one more piece for us. He's currently on a family emergency in the United Kingdom, so he sent in this video. So please take a look at this photograph and keep that in your mind, and then we will listen to the video.
Greetings to one and all. At the very outset, I'd like to thank Poetry Festival Singapore and Kemlin Tan Bapi and Lucien Tan from Between the Lines for having given me this opportunity to share my ekphrastic offering under the theme Sojourners. My ekphrastic poem is a response to a photograph I received from one of my Korean artist collaborators who had traveled to New York with her 2 sisters. Curiously, although all 3 of them reside in Korea, they don't meet up that often. So that's part of the backstory. The photograph shows them sitting on a bench, having flown in from Seoul that very morning. The first thing, jet lagged, although they all 3 were, they rushed out to the Met, and the photograph shows them sitting looking at a very famous painting by the Dutch master Jacob van Roosendaal. And the title to his famous painting is The Wheat Fields. Now, may I request Kemlin to kindly put up the photograph for our viewers. Thank you, Kemlin. And without further ado, let me recite the poem. At the Met. Sitting on a bench, the sisters 3, tiredly gazing out at a wheat field. Of what has been and still might be, what lay as fallow might later yield. Lime green and silver in the spring, furrows scar and maim the land, billows of clouds keep coming in, what you once lost, yet later found. Sitting silent as though in prayer, until the sower meets the reaper. In joys and sorrows they will share, each of them their sister's keeper. The thought came to all three at once. Who would be the first one to leave, blend into wheat, no backward glance, leaving the remaining two to grieve? But for now, they rest their tired feet. Respite is something they hardly get. Just grateful for this chance to meet, smile at each other, and say, well met.
Thank you, Neil Daswani, for sharing that very moving poem.
Wow. Such a beautiful poem.
Breathtaking. Next, we have another poet from our schools in Singapore. Manas is a fourth-year student at Temasek Junior College and has a passion for literature and poetry. She writes from her personal experiences and loves to play with form. She has been a part of the Creative Arts Program mentorship, and she's challenging herself and in her own journey, and is publishing her work as well. So welcome on stage, Manas.
Hi, I'm Manas, and I'll be reading Of Phoenix. Playing jigsaw with myself, binding my tears with super glue, origami butterflies infesting my windpipe, kneading the pain away, trapping the heart, and folding myself around it. I glossed over batter. Memories crashing on marine candy wrappers, littering the floor of my heart. I boiled them and stringed the beads into a chandelier that clings from the roof. It is prickled with ornaments. Some petals are the crumbling autumn leaves. My fingers miss the touch of tears, slipping into their grooves after searching for a place to stay for someone else. Wet meadows carve into tender flesh. We haven't known bloody mealbeds for a while. With soot-caked hands, I gathered the loose threads, one for every wrong I had spilled, and twist them together, bringing the oil out to see sunlight pooling under, ash leaking like drops of grievances. A honeysuckle book, moments before a spark, a miasma leaching onto the volatile air. I reek of rubble soon to be set alight. Sometimes you have to burn before you're born. Thank you.
Everybody, let's give a round of applause to Manas. It gives me such hope to know that we have emerging young poets like this on our Singapore scene, and just cheering us all on and with your vigor and your beautiful imagery and symbolism that you bring to this poem was just pretty beautiful. Thank you. All right. Our next poet is from the United States. Richard Spizak really wanted to be here, but Rick has fallen ill, and so he has requested that Lucian and I read his poem. So I will begin with Traveling Monks. The Traveling Monks of Depras Luzaling Lamasery. Alme Patne Om. Have been traveling to share from fair, far Tibet what you gain when you forget. Ame Padme Om. Their wisdom like the dancing water boy with the buckets who employ with his joyous spillage all the joy and tillage. Ame Padme Om. his bearing burdens glory, and then beyond silence tell the story. Sharing music, dance, and throughout the ritual conjure trance to break the lake to consecrate. The senior monk gave a satsang for greater glory, and there amidst the jade and ivory savor flavored story, we sat in silence, in compliance, and the chanting was a delightful violence. He asked, the senior monk did. He asked the grown-ups, asked the kids. Did anyone have in their position a gentle question poised beyond the noise possession? They would learn of the monk wisdom, the shining day amidst of Dharma's play, what this traveling monk thunk. What did he think after all these weeks in America complete? Was it wondrous? Was it neat? The wise monk pondered as the chelas fidgeted. They sat in their best posture, fingering their beads, figured for what they were after. Laughter breaks rigid. The monk finally spoke and wrestled the yoke from their throats with his brief little note. He was not asked, hey, would it last? But he said with a chuckling laugh, in America, you have a lot of things I hope it comfort brings at last. And like a pebble troubling upon of what brainy bounty spawn and ripples round the room, dispensing light, disturbing gloom, in a room as opulent as any temple, a monk whose life was simple gave an ample sample of simple wisdom thrilled, and through those gathered trilled an ancient wisdom surely spilled, and like a bolt of lightning drilled, but some just merely puzzled, and from that moment and the room tumbled. What did it mean? What had they seen? The senior monk just smiled. And after a while, his smile grew into a laugh at last. In his wise foolishness found the Fonte's vaunted path. Om Padme Om Padme Om Padme by Richard Spizak, an information sculptor, a host, an actor, a playwright, and visual artist. Lucian.
This whimsical piece is called Broccoli, an ode. I love the tiny trees of old broccoli. I see old Gargantua or perhaps Paul Bunyan among them. Devouring a forest hand over hand, barely leaving anything but sand. In a soup makes me droop, and baked, I think it's a mistake. Breaking those tiny branches into kindling makes me hungry, especially when the supply in the fridge is dwindling. I will, on occasion, with a little persuasion, sprinkle some across the salad, and in praise offer a ballad. But make mine steamed, this the very stuff of dreams, and add a drizzle of salty butter, couldn't be better. So pass me another, please.
Everyone, go ahead and unmute for Richard Spizak.
Lovely. Delighted.
The poems have so much the reward of to the senses is so great. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, definitely check out some of Richard's work. It's fantastic. He's such an advocate for the international global community, and he does podcasts and features different poets, and just a lovely human being. But for right now, we keep him in our prayers because he's really ill. So I'm so glad that he would have definitely made a video for us had he not been as ill as he has been. So, but he really wanted to join us. All right, up next, we have Rochelle.
Hello, hello. Good evening, everybody.
Okay, let me introduce you. Rochelle is a science student and, like me, would also be struggling and has a curious uh, coping mechanism of being a confessionalist. So she writes confessional poems. I like that. She takes inspiration from family, love, and the teenage spirit and angst. She hopes to publish her own poetry collection. Welcome, Rochelle Chua.
I'll take it from here. Thank you so much for the introduction. So, the poem that I have for you today is called Drinking Up. This could have been us, but the winds and jet fuel drifted us farther than we could have anticipated. When the coast was clear, all I could see was a trail of sea glass the blaze left behind. I had prayed earnestly for you to remember, else a sense of loss. Giving a place I am losing, Kiribati to the swallowing water, displacement from a point I cannot even begin to define. Where do I belong if I've spent a quarter of my life elsewhere? The sandcastles are rebuilt. Ongoing pains, hallelujah. The prodigal son, after squandering all the richness of life, has come home. It is obvious disparity is never quiet. Chew on, fingernails clawing at throat. Today, I ate well. Nothing quells the worry like plain water. Thank you.
Everyone. That last line really got to me. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that Lo Kien Se recommended that you join us and share this poem with us.
I'm really grateful for his recommendation too.
Yes, so thank you so much for that, and glad that you all are here. Next up, we have Aratna Sadasivam. She's a scientist, teacher, turned intellectual law professional in Singapore. She writes in Hindi and English, and she loves bilingual poetry, and she writes in Tamil and Gujarati as well. Welcome, Aratna.
Thank you, Cam. Thank you so much. I'm so much happy and delighted to be on this program. Thank you. So, here I am. Crossed oceans of tears, islands of emotions. One day, in the mid of night, we launched ourselves into a flight, boarded our own wishes and desires with wings expanded as far as horizons. We flew, flew, and flew far, far away, afar from our motherland, out of sight, to build a nest on a land foreign but of our dreams. Sojourners, no, sojourners. Sojourn exists but in minds, islands after islands of thoughts. When we pull our sails down and think, a minuscule of journey completes. Onwards, onwards, and onwards, only to briefly cast a glance back. Along the way, many sojourns begin. Life is but just a sojourn. In a moment, it begins and ends. Birth, years of life, and then, in a moment, lived in years. The bubbles called life is gone. Trick is to live, enjoy the bubble as it swells and grows big. Cherish moments and dirty your hands, for you never know when the bubble goes bust. So, my friend, live to the fullest. Smell every rose. Enjoy the lavender laden breeze that comes your way every morn. Aradhana to camp. Thank you.
And anyone who meets Aratna in person will know that she is this bubbling well of joy, full, effervescent. Aratna is poetry herself. And
Thank you.
I had a chance to I had a chance to meet her and several poets in Singapore when I was back home about a month ago, and it was such a joy. Um, I
Yeah.
love being on Zoom, and the reason why I stay on Zoom is because I do not want to lose touch with all my poet friends from all around the world. But when you get to hang out with them live, there's nothing like that energy, that sharing space, and you can hug people. Okay, all right, enough
Absolutely.
geeking out.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Aradno, thank you for your joyous poem and celebration of life
you.
and challenge to live life to the fullest. Mm. All right, next up we have Hannah Chua. And after that, I am going to ask Diane Murray Ward to go after that. All right? Okay.
Hello, thank you for having me.
I need to introduce Hannah. Hannah is a student at Raffles Girls School. She enjoys music, tragedies, wahaha. Lucian, she also likes storytelling, and soft toys from IKEA. Check out our totems. Okay, and poems about hope. At 10 years old, she began her writing journey and published angsty stories on questionable websites. I'm now curious. Now, she is using Google Docs as her primary app and enjoys writing speedily. She wrote out of one afternoon and wrote this poem. So here it goes. Hannah Chua.
Thank you for the introduction. This poem is called Teenager Breaking the Tablets of the Law. The window grills cast shadow bars across your skin in the sunlight. Silence in the shape of a held breath. You sit cross-legged on the floor, last year's notebook laid open and defenseless in your lap. Tear through every page, watch your sea of mortifying ones drift softly to the floor. Maybe you love them. So what? Your memory sinks its teeth into this slant of light. You tell yourself, I'm free, and believe it. The light floods you in the middle of pucky forest floor, dapples you green in a pile of ripped paper leaves, silhouettes you a halo in this chapel of dust. Thank you.
Chapel of Dust. What a shot. Lovely. Thank you for sharing.
And we just cheer you on, keep writing. And yes, we love all those interesting, angsty poems as well. All right. So thank you so much for sharing. And up next, we have one of our Between the Lines core members, Diane Murray Ward. So welcome, Diane. Diane is a powerhouse in our poetry scene and literary scene and dance scene and visual arts scene. She's a New Yorker of West Indian heritage. She has an undergraduate degree in medical anthropology and philosophy and interned in the United Nations and in several other medical fields. And she has a master in rehabilitation counseling from New York University. And she continues to advocate for the needs of people and is actually working in partnership with Dr. Molly on the field of ethics. She has a heart for abused children, disabled college students, and people who are underrepresented and need their voices heard. So, welcome on board, Diane Murray
Ward. It is a pleasure to meet all of you. It is wonderful, and I'm so glad that I am here. I have a piece that I titled Nesting Straw. I have become like a nesting straw, windblown, sought for as a building block, weakened at times, though still functional, useful, and rehabilitated, for each avenue has climate. I am malleable enough to provide comfort. I have become more than nesting straw for others, now realizing the strength of fibers and strands, the strength imbued by faith and promise, by an ability to withstand disappointment, disappearance, and choices that are not viable, otherwise, so not real choices. I have become like a building material, sagging and soaked, resilient yet fragile, steady and ready, reliable, and let's not forget pliable. I have become nesting straw, fading, frayed, contorted, and exhausted, still strong in some areas, weakened in others, useful to some, useful to many, brave and resourceful, less blending in belief of others, unfolding, refolding, collapsing. Nesting straw, not necessary yet necessary, with temporary usefulness, whether torn or discarded, repurposed by others. No one knows how many times pieces are freely used, baited, and finally prohibited, since it's the intentional fate of some nesting straw. I will bind and almost blend elsewhere because I am nesting straw. I am malleable enough to provide comfort. Soothing replenishes each fiber, each strand ready for the next nest. Now each attempt wisely saving for eventual self-purpose, self-comfort, someplace, somewhere, sometime. For I am nesting straw and I grow in knowledge, cemented by each structure I build. BMW. Thank you.
Diane Murray Ward. What can I say?
That was a nice poem. I was very moved by the words. Thank you for sharing.
Makes me want to be that nest for other people and for myself. Yeah. Thank you, Diane. And glad
I'm humbled. I'm humbled to be here in your company. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
And thank you for getting up so early in New York to join us. Up next, we have Jyoti Pratik. Jyoti has a passion for poetry and has written solo books of poems and short stories, and they reflect her love for nature and spirituality and highlights inner and outer realms of life. She's written on many online forums and is currently the editor of the Inner Path magazine, which publishes wisdom stories, poems, and articles on self-discovery and spiritual growth. And she also edits for the Green Journal, an environmental awareness magazine that runs in conjunction with Plants of Singapore on Facebook. She's also good friends with Aradna, and they are a part of ALS together. And I hope that you guys continue to inspire many other people in your circles. Welcome, Jyoti.
Hi, Kathy. Thank you for inviting me and giving me this opportunity. And it's an honor to be here tonight. The poem that I will be reading to you today is inspired by an incident when I was strolling at the beachside and I saw a tortoise huddled in its shell, and it was sitting so peacefully, unaffected by the noise of the waves. It made me reflect for a moment that we too could go within ourselves and experience those moments of tranquility and remain unaffected by the tumultuous waves of the world around us. So here goes the poem, The Journey Within. The journey within, an uncharted sojourn, beckons us to plunge into the inner world, to touch and feel the depth of self, detaching for a moment on truth to reflect. This reflection mirrors the world we perceive, a parallel universe within us we conceive. When we dive within, it stirs like an ocean that churns, tossing the soul's boat on whirlpools unfurled. Let the oars of your breath row us through the deep, through elixirs and venoms that the inner world keeps. Steering through mazes of tangled thoughts, the calm witness sails and connects the dots. Let it flow with ease, let it float and glide, releasing fears and letting go of pride. With the clear stream of vision guiding us through the dark, let our inner voice be our compass on this journey we embark. As we sail through the ocean of the inner realm, identities blur and unity overwhelms. Illusions fade and thoughts become clear, where dualities dissolve and oneness is near. This journey within the precincts of our being takes us beyond what the eyes could be seeing, unearthing the potential and strength of the soul. It lightens the heart and renders us whole. Thank you.
Journey to the inner self. Lovely word, Jessie.
It's wonderful. Not ask for a better example
Very
to
poignant.
match your
Deep.
bio. Dr. Molly, were you saying something? Oh, unmute, please, Molly.
Inner trajectory, like your journey, the sojourn and spiritually, enlightened pathways. Loved it. Loved it.
Thank you.
Thank
you,
you so
Jati.
much. Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right, next up we have Kimaya Bhuta. She's a writer pursuing her studies in the literary arts at the School of the Arts in Singapore. Her writing is an exploration of spaces, places, and the captivating moments that capture her gaze. So let's see what captivated her thoughts. She is influenced from writers such as Kiran Desai, Imtiaz Dakar, and Oran Pamuk. When she's not writing, she's often trying to find something else to write about. And she is giving that to us today. Welcome, Kimaya.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you, Kemen, for the introduction. Today, I'll be reading my poem, When I Called the Sea's Name. When I called the sea's name, it was silent. Its waters wading through my feet. I touched it again, called its name. Then it shed a tear. The sun was burning its back, mirrors on glass buildings reflecting the pain, searing it back into the sea. When I called the sea's name, it winced, rolled a wave, crashed onto the rocks of Mumbai, anger now telling me to stop. Then I was silent. When I called the sea's name, it was at dawn when my eyes bled black chemicals and my lips hardly sung good poetry. When I called the sea's name, it told me that it hadn't drowned my name between bays, peninsulas, and archipelagos. When I called the sea's name, my heart beat twice for the part of me that lived and the other whose name had slipped into the sea. Thank you.
Wow.
Seemed like a conversation with the sea. Lovely.
the power of the name and the power of the sea. Thank you. Thank you, Kamalia. And if you haven't checked out the chat, many of your poets here and fellow artists and creatives have been speaking to each one of you, echoing lines and phrases and thoughts that were invoked and evoked by your poetry. So please take the time to scroll through the chat and see what your friends have written to you, for you. Next up is another one of our poets from our Between the Lines Corps. It's Dr. Ravi Chandra P. Chitampally. He's a former chair, Department of English at the University of Mysore, was the Northrop Frye Fellow at the University of Toronto. He writes daily, inspires each one of us by sharing his poetry online. He's retired, currently living in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, but he is on a journey himself, so he's sojourning. And so he has asked that I read and Lucian read two of his poems. The first poem is called A Sojourner's Reverie. 1. Between birth and death, between darkness and light, between apathy and empathy, between nothing and being, between the tick and the tock of the marker of time, the self that is the I sojourns. Why then do we boast of arrivals? Why do we make much of departures? Man has no lease on earth, a mere station in the trackless wilderness where neither history nor event has little worth. Man is but a poor breathless climber, dragging his limbs across the glacial time, arriving each camp, gasping for air, insouciant ego, elect pretender. What do? Build walls? Poison the very air you breathe, and when your time comes, you moot riots. O deliverer, destroyer, liar with a grin, found out arraigned, yet unrepentant, you still would be the elect, ordering history, gathering the hating millions upon your lawn. Elsewhere you lead a march, though you rarely walk. In the parliament of fools, the commander is the clown. Thump the table then at each tick of the eye, while the hungry mass drags its belly upon the gravel. 2. I too traveled much, saw much, learned little. From my aimless peregrinations, except talk of the street food I enjoyed and the pubs I reviewed, you can look me up on TripAdvisor. Pardon though the grammar. I have returned each time to a place I do not remember, to a history of forgetting and a dissonance in which I hear only my pulse. Having crossed innumerable mountain streams, I stand now almost nude in 3 feet of infinity, waiting between breakfast and lunch for a chance of Venus or a vision induced from springs and distant highlands. In the meanwhile, I have much to tell you. I found no bear in Delhi, nor did the sickly python in Penang stir my shoulder like before. Joseph's dead birds talk to me at sunset as I wait for the after sea to grow still. I stood on the pier looking over the still waters of the Caspian, where daughters of lost mothers fight for Zindagi, and Azadi. Wherever I turn, I see leaders in the whirl of men competing to erect penal structures taller than one another, while far below the youth of jobless generation wait for contractors to offer a few hours of labor in the jungle of Burj Khalifa, Willis Tower, Tokyo Skytree, the CNN, the Shanghai Tower, the Petronas Twin Towers. I hear the cacophony of the modern tribes as slaves from other shores serve them. 3. Hello, I hear you speak my language. Forgive me, I should not have intruded. Familiarity is but a marker of avoidance. No one dances to a familiar cadence. As feet choose with care where they land, there is a safety in being anonymous in a world where hordes migrate from hostility to hostility. Kindness is but indifference in an age of violence. I've tried to return, but can anyone ever go back? Where the lanes one grew up in. The tree under which festive concerts were held has gone, and evenings oozed from cauldrons of oil while vendors cry out the food they serve. The breeding hound, so emaciated, wags his tail and waits for you to drop a crumb, while the youth, with pumped up muscles, kicks at its flanks and laughs. Await for a bus, any bus, to stop and take me away. Ravi Chandra P. Chitampali. Bhushan.
The second piece is also by Dr. Ravi Chandra P. Chitampali, entitled A Sojourner's Truth. All sojourners be upon this hill, till the sun sets upon each horizon, in the eye of the arrivant thereon. Let not the mirroring window teach the sunbird to rage against the one in the mirror angered by such intrusion. Grockles as we are, what do we know of spots where love conspires with time upon the waste? Heroes of the ersatz generation, we score over death with plastic damage and kill the whale with oil slick. One day, polymer mounds dredged from the oceans shall be the only mountains that we may ascend. To witness but the vanishing humanity, what cosmopolis boasts of woods? Behind the marvel of engineering, leaching death, lies the bleached bones of life under the sun. You and I wander upon this heath of horror and gloat under the noonday's relentless stare, but our shoes leave no mark of penitence or sign of our passage upon the hard and dark road. Like he who had once refused a little water, had left his upon the snow wherever he walked.
Everyone, this is Ravi. And a little side note, Ravi is also has scaled up many mountains in the Himalayas, including Everest, and the depth that he draws in his sojourning brings so much richness to our community. Yeah. So at this time, I have scheduled an intermission, but I know that we started late. I'm going to proceed to the second half, but if you do need to take care of a need or something, please feel free to take care of yourself. And then, we'll keep proceeding, but we will have the video available, so, you can catch up on what you missed by video. And thank you again to Charlotte Greeno from Poetry Festival of Singapore for supporting us. And Poetry Festival of Singapore will have the recording when I send it to them. All right. Lucian, thank you so much for reading Ravi's second poem as well. So, appreciate you. Dr. Molly, you are my opener for the second half. Dr. Molly is a professor, a bilingual poet from Kerala, India, who writes travelogues, short stories, stories for children. She's a terrific storyteller. I mean, she's you need to meet her grandchild Noah and how much she dotes on him. just a lovely child. She has won several accolades, including the Wordsmith Award in 2019, India's Women's Achievers Award in 2020, and the Best English Poetry Book of the Year awards in 2020. She's an ALS as well with Aradhana and Jati, and writes boldly on matters that deal with contemporary issues. She has a doctorate in post-war American poetry and has won the Galaxy Award in experimental poetry. And she can be, when Charlotte puts it in the chat, you can know where to reach her. But she is staple at Between the Lines. She is a joy to have in our community, and we welcome her on stage. Dr. Molly.
Thank you, my dear Kamlin. Dear poets, the young poets, I was listening to you with avid attention today. Yes, nice knowing you, hearing you, your inscapes, your scriptings, how you script out life through your writing. Wonderful it was. And all the best to this Singapore Poetry Festival. It was a very elaborate introduction you gave, Kamlin, so kind of you. So let me go into my poem, Sojourns. How our average lives turn out to be sojourns on shores so strange, varied, and our essential being becoming a part of the environment visited, molding our voyaging self. I take with me all it flashes on my screen, the morns that woke up with me, while the blue merged in sky, the mountain, the ocean, over the serene Lucerne, Switzerland, over Meriton Heights, the Harbour Bridge, Opera House and Darlington Island and Sydney Tower. The sweet little faces puckered in smiles in schools in Kenya. The bubbly youth, zestful in performance poetry in the teeming campuses of universities of Kisii and Rayara. The wistful look of the lion resting in Masai Mara, watching the little cubs, little ones eat up the rest of his prey. How the mountain-locked Bhutan, with its honk clangs of pagodas and spiritual solace resonates. I climb up the ancient Buddha temple of sacred tooth relic at Kanti, Sri Lanka. How my stirred-up soul revisits St. Peter's Cathedral, its attic, decked in deft artistic marvels. How I witnessed the marks of the rise and fall of power in Versailles Palace, Paris, and the pomp and glory of queenhood at Buckingham Palace, England. I take you all with me, the crimson red face of the blushing eve, the moody moon's peep into waters serene, the dotting eyes that followed as blessing and care, the nights of languid slumber endured in dreams of delirious pleasure and pain. Having seen through, grateful to receive, having received, there it flows, my sojourn over the uncertain, slippery shores of life. Thank you, dears. Thank you for your patient listening. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. The last line really got me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just
Very nice.
amazing, Dr. Yusuf. It's lovely,
Thank
lovely poem.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Molly. And if you want to hear more of her poetry, come join us on our weekly show at Between the Lines. I know, shamelessly plugging, right, Diane? And up next we have the lovely Bing Novato. Hello, Kambal. Good to see you. Kumusta ka? I'm so happy to have Bing join us. She is a fabulous poet that I have met and heard several times before. She is working as a domestic worker in Singapore. She's been there for a long while and longer than me. She's also a volunteer with Home and gives advice to other, she's an advocate and a support for other migrant workers in Singapore. And she's part of the migrant writers of Singapore, and contributes to AIM. She's one of 27 writers in Our Home, Our Stories, a book about domestic workers, a very, very hot topic right now in Singapore. And she is one of the editors of Call and Response to a Migrant Book Anthology. And my friend, it's so good to see you on the screen and see you looking rather healthy. I'm happy that you are here. Thank you for joining us. You have the stage.
Thank you, Miss Camlin. It's a dream come true to be a part of this poetry reading. Really, thank you so much. So my poem, Sanity, is my response to the theme Catharsis before I left Singapore. Sanity. I heard your voice, even when I'm asleep, tormenting me with noise, with words that cuts deep. I'm a prisoner in your nest. You do not allow me to rest. My eyes are soaked in tears. At night, I lay on my fears. I am losing my sanity. Every time your eyes shadow me, my life is in misery. There is nothing good that I see. I penned my woes in the dark in pieces of papers that I stuck, my only relief every night until exhaustion summoned me. As the morning breaks, I took my courage to escape, leaving all behind. There is nothing to take. I breathe deeply, just resigned to my fate. I can hear my heart beating fast, feel the joy that I found at last. Close my eyes to ease my mind, reset my thoughts, allow myself to unwind. Thank you.
Beautiful. Bravo.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, that is, for every domestic workers who's been suffering abroad. And I think I myself is included in there the past few months. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing your vulnerability. All right, thank you so much again, Bing, and it is such an honor to have you share with us and speak your poetry and taking your precious time to be here. All of you, everyone has offered such a precious resource, which is your time and your talent, and sharing it with this community. So on behalf of Q's Blue World, on behalf of Q's Blue World and Poetry Festival of Singapore, founded by Eric Vallis, we thank you all for making the effort to be here and sharing your heart with us. All right, Lucia, cue Jonathan Chan up. Jonathan Chan is a writer and editor of poems and essays. Born in New York to a Malaysian father and South Korean mother, he was raised in Singapore and educated at Cambridge and Yale. He's the author of collections Going Home and serves as the editor of Poetry Archive Singapore SG. Now, you can, in the bio, you will be able to find more of where you can find his work. Now, Jonathan could not join us. He asked that to accept his regrets, but he did send us a video, and this is the treat he has for us. Lucian.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Chan, and I'm a writer and editor of poetry and essays based in Singapore. It's a pleasure to be here with you for this iteration of Between the Lines as part of Poetry Festival Singapore, and I'm delighted to be able to read a poem for you titled Farewells. The poem was inspired by Lulu Wang's 2019 film The Farewell, and it takes as its departure point 3 times where I've said goodbye to a member of my family. The first, farewell to my grandmother in Seoul. The second, a farewell to my grandmother of Malaysian origin, now living in Houston, Texas. And the third farewell, a farewell to my own mother, who's based in Singapore. In a way, this poem is a representation of my own journey as a sojourner, and I hope you enjoy it. It's from my book, Going Home, which is out with Landmark Books. Farewells, after Lulu Wang. 1. Seoul. Luggage wheels trundle over the metal panels between home and elevator. I hold a last glimpse of the room. Wooden cross, slightly crooked. Porcelain dishes for banchan. Smiling cousins in photo frames. Harmony emerges. Poofed hair and teal cardigan. A kick in each slippered footstep. The last beeps of the electronic number pad. A disembodied voice. Feminine. Polite. Invites us to step out at the ground floor. The glass door is ajar. The building stands unassuming in a uniform complex. Harmony gives us firm pats on the back and slyly on the rear, and we get on the van, turning to the pale, emaciated hands quietly waving us away. 2. Houston. The twine cuts into our fingers as we load cardboard boxes, stuffed with wholesale tennis balls, novels, pistachios, sealed with tape and unnamed resentment. Rumbling suitcases down wooden steps, past the calligraphy on the clock gifted to Ye. We shuffle in and out, catching our last glimpses of unread mail stacked on checkered tablecloths, the stoves on which Mama's popiah turnip used to simmer, the apple slices washed and left to rest in a purple colander. We take our last photo against the gate's grills, looking out to the cul-de-sac, Houston's R emblazoned on my brother's chest. Go lah, go, you're going to miss your flight. And the last thing we see is her shock of white hair, her jade bangle, her stalwart figure, steadfast before the house built on unfulfilled promises. 3. Singapore. Eyes bleary, head pounding. Mom checks on whether everything has been packed. I fold my suitcase, bursting with unread books and winter coats, lucid enough to exchange hugs with Dad, my brothers, half asleep by the edge of dusk. Our helpers wave, smiles brimming with resolution. I awaken to the swaths of flats, vanishing with every passing brush of green. There is a tremor in thinking of the millions of stories that I can never, will never know, east, let alone west. I hold the few stymied chapters of summer in my hands, feeling the warmth of every goodbye, the assurance of joyous reunion. They stick to me in humid breath. Mom sits with a cup of teh tarik. I ask if it was ever this hectic with every return from Hong Kong to Seoul. College students didn't need so much stuff, she muses, and I wonder, over my last cup of yuan yang, whether I really do either. Hers is the last hug. Hers is the last wave. Her folded arms, quiet expression glimpsed through glass panels, over and away from the seamless, automated gantries. Thank you.
Lucian, I don't know about you, but the many journeys that we have taken away from home, all goodbyes, something that I definitely related to. And
Selective memory can be humane sometimes.
thank you, Jonathan Chan, for triggering in those memories. But everyone, that's the power of art. That's the power of poetry. It brings us to places and spaces that we don't always expect. It's an honor. Okay, stop crying. Kara Wong. Kara is an incoming English language and literature undergraduate bibliophile. She can be found in Kinokuniya, browsing through the shelves, and beneath her mellow demeanor also lies an avid taekwondo practitioner who adores salat. Okay, not fair. I'm hungry right now. And pandan ice cream? Pandan custard ice cream? What on earth is that? I've got to try it next. Moving forward, Kara aspires to be an educator upon graduation. Join our ranks, yes. And she hopes to guide future generations in the understanding of literature, university in relation to one's personal experience. Yes, we love educators. Yes, corrupt us all. Help us be agents and okay, maybe not. All right, no, we do our best. So come on board, Kara Wong.
Hi, thank you. So I'll begin reading my poem. It's called The Circle of Life, and it's actually a shaped poem, and I was encouraged to share it on screen. So I'll share it in a bit. Can everybody see my screen? Okay, so I'll begin reading my poem. The circle is not just a mere shape from your primary school geometry lessons in the classroom. It is a neutral symbol which portrays our beginning at the end and end at beginning in a continuous cycle, rotating 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. Apparently, if something dies, it breathes new life into another. I have tried and tried again to untether myself from the shackles of this inky cloak which only drips contempt. Yet, I cannot bear to go straight for the kill, to seize its tendrils and chop the stem off using a cutlass. They coil tightly around this beating core, which thrums to the sound of my 19 years of existence. But are there any laws to abide by in the world's concrete jungle? Perhaps, instead of courting the death of this creature, I ought to embrace limbo and salvage the surviving roots for a cultivated rebirth, to break away from this vicious cycle where I am but a cog, which, too, rotates along the axis of existence. Thank you.
Wow, our first shape poem. Thank you so much for sharing your screen, and of course that visual enhances the experience. So thank you so much, Kara. All right, up next we have Soy, a poet who writes under the name Soy Avocado. Soy because I am avocado. She loves Spanish. She's my Spanish-speaking buddy. She also writes under the name. Her name is Jennifer Leong, and tonight she is actually with the team called Betwixt and Between the Lines, and they are performing at Matt Neyer's group competition, and so she has sent her video for us to enjoy. She started writing in a strange sort of way. It was a creative way to raise funds for autism, and through her play in Singapore Poetry Writing Month and Southeast Asia Writing Month, she has now invented her personal form called Dua Tres Penta Step. It's a multi-directional poetry form that she created in 2022, where the stanzas can be read in any order, and each stanza has 5 lines. Her poem Hills won the Spirit of the Festival Award at the Francis Brown Literary Festival Multilingual Poetry Competition in 2022. And so, without further ado, Lucian, will you send that video on?
On paths and walks, dear fellow traveler, now that our paths cross, like vision we toss, words up in the air, swords we cross, sometimes lines too, between you and me. One a slower sojourner, words and speed that we want to command, and to steer steeds to gallop through jungles, uneven, unpaved, the tracks are unclear, unlike those I've saved on my own playlist. Go slow and placidly, go with the flow. Let it go, but bite that acid tongue. Sometimes I miss the signs, say they're poorly designed as you get a handle and you whisk away, you whiz kid of omelette. Expert pastry maker who performs angioplasty on whipping cream clots. I am the chalk to your cheese. I prefer to be alone. Please, you, the life of the party. I believe in turning in early. I never turn up early. Time has a pastime passing by me ever so easily. You are the early one. You get up at dawn. Fish for today's dish, I hit the snooze button. We both make room for the journey together so neither of us gets too far from our paths. There's space enough for all when the going's tough, also when it's time to have some good fun. On this walk through life we talk, we eat, we laugh, we cry, we try, we fry hor fun. And we're fried by the hot noon sun. We eat cha bihun under the sliver of a moon, silver oftentimes, at times blue or red. Blood courses through veins and tributaries to bring tribute. These alleys work is not in vain. It readies and rallies for our journey. No race this. Humans on life's walk, though we may be soaked from high humidity bouts, we travel in and out of each other's lives, possibly on parallel paths. Then paths cross again. We choose the road more or less traveled, all we sojourners keeping company with journals. Take comfort, for there's a hand stretched out to help when there are giants about before the very next yelp. May we be clothed and cloaked in humanity and solidarity for fellow sojourners till arrival of the last croak. Till arrival of the last croak, for fellow sojourners in humanity and solidarity, may we be clothed and cloaked before the very next yelp, when there are giants about stretched out to help. Take comfort, for there's a hand. Then pass cross again, possibly on parallel paths of each other's lives. We travel in and out. It readies and rallies for our journey. At times blue or red, blood courses through veins. On this walk through life, there's space enough. We both make room. I hit the snooze button. You are the early one. Ever so easily, I believe in turning in early. I am the chalk to your cheese on whipping cream clots. Who performs angioplasty? Sometimes I miss the signs, but bite the acid tongue. Go with the flow. Let it go, on my own playlists. Go slow and placidly as you get a handle to gallop through jungles and to steer steeds. One a slower sojourner, swords we cross, words up in the air. Dear fellow traveler.
If you heard the repetition, it's because she's reading her stanzas in different order and see how they flow. And that is the verbal literary gymnastics this poet is very good at. And I wish that you could see her poem as well, because it is a delight to see on page as well as a delight to listen to. All right. Up next, we have Rika Dinesh Sharma. She lives in Singapore with her hubby, 2 children, and 1 fur child. I want to see the fur child, actually. Her poems have been featured in literary journals such as Fine Lines, Open Door Poetry Magazine, Our Poetry Archives, Mockinghart Review, and several other anthologies. She has been invited to and appeared on Festival of Words in Louisiana. Last year, she was one of those chosen poets, the only one from Asia, organized by FOW Louisiana. Occasionally, an inspiration strikes. She writes in Hindi, and Hindi fostered her love for reading and writing, while English indulges her like an auntie. She dabbles in art when not writing. or daydreaming? Oh, yeah, dabbling in daydreaming, yes. Hashtag live goals. Her art pieces and photos have been featured in quarterly issues of Fine Lines and Anthologies by Prolific Press, North Carolina, and she's now working remotely as an editor uh, on Fine Lines Literary Journal based in Omaha, United States. Welcome on board. And please say your name again because I probably botched it.
Hi, Camlin. My name is Richa. Can you hear me?
Please proceed, Richa.
Yeah, thank you, Camlin. That was a great introduction. Thank you so much. I'd be reading two poems today. The first one is called The Reading of Poetry. The reading of poetry. Words are spoken in a refined sing-along. Lines meet their kin in a woke embrace. While pine-scented languid stanzas afloat, one after another, like lulls on a riverboat. People smile, listening, intent, enrapt. The lovers of poesy meet in a fluid coven, magically bound through spellwork of poetic form, runes of linguistic ubiquity, like a psychedelic butterfly that perches or a chandelier that scatters ebullient light. Poetry exudes beads of haunting delight, devising, nurturing, entailing an art of being, beginning at the crest and riding the throes of exultant breaths and deep sad sighs, foregoing, forfeiting the illnesses wrought by loss, or the entrapment of unrelenting human griefs, making offerings of long form, quatrain, free verse, prayers fleshed out of the heart's sentiments. Such divinity flows out of a poet's soul that quiet comfort fills the room where poetry is read. The second poem is it's closer to the theme Sojourners. The title is When I Fly. Home is just a construct built by the wild wistfulness of a wandering soul over births, rebirth, travel, lives, rising in the moons, setting with the suns, across lifetimes of discovery, of making friends, gardening, losing hope, blooming, wilting, withering, dying, across painful remembrances, trips to the mountains, dinners and evenings alone. So contemplation could be had before the inevitable comes, along the generous sides of hope, that when the edge of the world closes in and locks me into a choice, I take wings well into my long flight. Thank you.
Thank you for those two poems, Rika. Beautiful, Richa. Yeah. Oh, what an exciting night. Shaman Kamatis next. She is originally from Goa, India, but now is calling Singapore home. She loves indie bookstores and libraries. That's her happy place. And she loves to travel, swim, run, do art, and be in nature. She's been writing since 5th grade, and I cannot wait to hear what she brings to us. Shaman.
Hi, I'm going to recite some mini poems, really short ones, reminiscing my travels in Asia. One, Golden Guy, Tokyo. Going to seed, Golden Guy, yet not lost its guts, rising dusk after dusk. Stingy 6 streets, golden guy. Heavenly stairs ascend, unveiling a tiny den. One time cat house, golden guy. Yet camaraderie ethos over hellos and arigatos. Wet our whistles, golden guy. Shot of Yamazaki as we go on a spree. Second, Tet, which is Chinese New Year, a la Saigon. City lights, buzzing night, bikes galore, packed floor. Sky ablaze, fire maze, rainbow shades, smiles invade. Faces light, eyes bright, Saigon bliss, still miss. Third, Turtuk, Ladakh. A faint morning sun crushes my face. A light drizzle outside plays. Marigolds form an orange maze. Pine trees surround me, I'm in a daze. I get up from the cozy lace. Sweet, sweet earth makes a pretty face. I soak, leaving behind the city race. Turtuk, with its godly ways, consumes me and a high stays. 5. Borbadur. Maya's vision of a descendant, etched in this giant remnant, buried in Merapi's volcanic ash, narrates stories of 9th century past. Pleasures to nirvana make way in this 9-leveled pious space. Tantric monks must have based in the mandala in pensive mien. Largest temple of Buddhas nestled in lattice stupas, amid shade-grain Java plains, seek divine over life mundane. Alice couldn't have agreed more of this wonderland, this furor, through Indonesia's rabbit hole, aura and mystic enfold. And my last one, from my hometown, Baga, Goa. Strangers' eyes, hawkers' cries, parachutes sway, sandcastles lay. Cocoa trees, cheery seas, red flags, tails wag. Orange sun, football fun, jet sprayed sky, beach bums dry. Blue delights, sandy sights, relaxed mind, come unwind. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Shaman, for that lovely reading and delivery of 2 poems. I felt like it was like going on a visual postcards here and there. And thank you for bringing us to Goa, your hometown. Appreciate you. We've had such rich poetry here today. I want to thank family members and audience members today who have come to support our poets in our reading. Thank you for inviting poets. Thank you for inviting your community to join us today. It's truly a celebration of you and your talent and also your heart. The messages that we have heard come so strongly. I'm going to invite you all to do a little bit of meta and thinking with me. At the end of this program, before we leave, if you can think about one line or one theme, one message and takeaway, before as you exit, I would like to hear each one of you and what you have gathered from this convocation of poets. So, that's something I would like to think of you. What is one line that you would like to leave with our poets, and what have you taken away? All right. So, as we wind down our final poets, I want you to think about this reflective practice so that we can close with meaning as much as possible. All right, Nat Falk, you are on stage. She's waiting to study abroad in the United Kingdom to read law. She spends her time teaching, learning, and exploring both the physical and metaphysical realms, searching for the best matcha desserts. Okay, I'm starving now. Catching up on the latest saber tournaments. She also believes in the potential of ASEAN youth and seeks to form lasting connections between them, and by tinkering with youth model ASEAN X, a not-for-profit. And on whiny days, this is the great advice, she tends to pre-post with lots of writing in the search of catharsis. So it is no surprise that she came to us from the Catharsis, Nat Vog.
Oh, thank you so much for having me today. So hello, I'm Nat, and today I'll be reading a poem I wrote a long while ago. For half the record, for anyone who asks, I did my best to be a good friend. I was kind and I was honest and did everything I could, even if I may sound like a broken record. I tried to make something beautiful with my own two hands, my own mouth dripping with sweetness. I've never felt so true before. These lyrics I wrote for you before the last day of yore. Can you hear these hands? This blood on your hands? These words that no longer have a master. For the record, I was clean and kind to you. We didn't deserve it. Not in hindsight, not in my eyes. Out of time. This was not how it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a continuous record of love unrecorded, kindness purported. There is no other way to explain the white noise in my mind, deported. There must be a better way to play this, in which I never decided to be honest, where you never lent me this record, where the vinyl is smooth. How do I tell this to all the people I promised to? I promised I was happy. I promised I was right, but I'm not. Music keeps playing. There's no ascent to the crescendo. No telltale sign that I had missed all along. The violist and the violinist hold their bows like swords at each other's throats. The percussionist is holding his breath. The drummer is using her fists instead. We are nowhere close to Eden, or God for that matter. It was supposed to be a nice song I could play with my own lips. A song I could play despite leaving the grade 5 ABRSM behind. I'm holding my breath like a conductor holds the room. The score in front of me is a tragedy I have resigned myself to. I signal to the heartstrings. It's been a pretty long time, and now it must end. There is no encore because there is no audience. Who would pay for half a record anyway? Half a record does not sing half a song, quarter of a story. It only produces static. This is no way to end a song, but all melodies die somehow. I take off my headset. My ears are red. It's only time to reface the music we've co-written. Thank you.
I love how you tied in music, and it shows your love in multidisciplinary and dialogue in the arts. So, Jiayu, all the best in the UK for law, and meanwhile, keep inspiring us and sharing your beautiful work. All right, up next we have Jocelyn Teo. Thank you for waiting. I had shuffled my order a little bit, so thank you so much for being here, and welcome to our show. So Jocelyn is passionate about language, literature, and writing. She's a student studying at Nanyang Girls High. She's devoted to the arts and has accepted the Creative Arts Mentorship Program. And she is inspired by life experiences and social issues. So, let's hear what you have for us today.
Thank you for the introduction. It's an honor to be here. I'll be performing my poem Annette Causeway. The shards of myself hidden in Alexander. You promised eternity in raging fire to cool my moments of melancholy. So I took your name in a lavender field, wine spilt maroon across the sky. After a moment of twilight. To own your beauty, he severed it. To be free would be to burn, so you fell from grace, condemned to hell. Ô et moi, qui et moi. Je me vois en toi, Antoinette. I did not clip your emerald wings. Bound by vows and heat, you'll learn who it was. Your fate was wild with fresh flowers and my decay, sealed by a man, face black with hatred to rot with every orchid he punctured in your head. I swear he will pay. Run, before they suck every youthful vivacious breath of yours away. Run, before I am but a looking glass, mad woman unloved, I pray. In this tidy, pretty little house, I beg, set me on fire, set me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn, and the delivery was gorgeous, and that intensity and dialogue. Wow, appreciate that. Up next, we have one of our participants of Between the Lines. Justin A is currently performing at Mount Myers group competition, and he is this is what he wrote. Okay, typical Justin Diane. Justin turns into a were poet every Tuesday night at BTL, hosted by Tom Bappy. By day, he's a program assistant working at a rehab center. Justin enjoys acts of service, takes time and efforts to understand each person's set of challenges. He runs talking points and peer support groups, designs posters, web pages, and churns out newsletters about the latest happenings, and has the greatest sense of humor. And if you ever get a chance to watch him perform, he does a really terrific job with his animated personality. So, Justin, Lucian, take it away.
Sojourners, a soul's journey through life, sometimes austere, other times rife with unease and conspiracy theories, overreaching prosecution queries. Cortisol produces anxiety, as is one to do with authority, curbing other bodily functions as the mind junctions its conclusions. So, to keep head lowered and be pliant, or be resourceful, self-reliant, draw and come to your independent summations, and implement your own creative solutions.
Thank you, Justin, and his merging between visual arts as well as his poetry, a very strong abstraction. Up next, we have Calvin Go.
Hi.
All right, let me introduce you, Calvin. Calvin is a literature teacher who spends his time singing in a choir and attempts to write creatively across different genres. Strong believing of writing what you know, he's fascinated by the beauty of the quotidian, the everyday, the mundane, and how it can be viewed through different lenses and perspective. He's enchanted by the power of language to communicate complex thoughts and emotions, and he hopes to share with others the little moments and observations in his life. So thank you for being willing to share visual postcards with us. Calvin, go.
Yep. Thank you. So I wrote this poem actually for the open call that happened last week for Catharsis. And so my poem is titled Catharsis Is. Catharsis isn't taking a deep breath and counting backwards from 10. Catharsis isn't repeat sessions with a therapist where one excavates raw, repressed emotions. Catharsis isn't leaning over a bridge and screaming your lungs out. Catharsis isn't hurling an axe at a target, wishing it was your ex. Catharsis isn't hugging it out, bitch. Catharsis isn't getting a new haircut or having a makeover. Catharsis isn't KonMariing your apartment and erasing every trace of the past. Catharsis isn't deleting the chat and hoping the problem goes away. Catharsis isn't taking a blade to your wrist just so that you feel something. Catharsis isn't waiting for a time to heal all wounds because it won't. Catharsis is neither drinking to excess, nor burning belongings, nor breaking things indiscriminately. There is so much that catharsis is not. Catharsis is not merely release, giving up, letting go. It is recovery, coming to terms, finding oneself. It is taking a draught from your well of emotions and taking great care not to drown. It is moving forward amid the chaos and madness and breathing, being, becoming. Catharsis is intent, intimate, intense. It is primal, personal, precious. Cliché as it seems, I only know what my catharsis isn't, and only you know what your catharsis is. Thank you.
Thank you, Calvin. Wow. Had a visceral reaction to that one. Grief. There was a battle when you were talking about what it wasn't. Because in the gut, I felt like it is what I have to do, but cannot for the sake of bearing, for the sake of others and community. Which is why this journey of catharsis is such as an individual road, but also a road for a community. Thank you for the challenge in thinking something so profound. And I'm so glad that you were here. All right, up next we have Shivani Kupusamy. Could you take this screen? Shivani is a Year 4 student at Temasek Junior College in Singapore, the School of Lokinte. She's an avid lover of literature, particularly poems. She loves to read poetry on Instagram and works by local poets like Pooja Nancy. Writing poetry is a newfound hobby of hers, where she finds comfort in expressing her feelings through writing. Jigsaw is a poem about friendship that she lost. She enjoys singing, listening music, and analyzing songs and song lyrics and crocheting. I definitely recommend A Tiny Rabbit Hole for all your crocheting needs. I love fiber arts as well. So welcome Shivani.
Hi, I'm Shivani. My poem is Jigsaw, and it's about a friendship I lost. Etches in blue, sketches, pictures and Polaroids depicting you and I, pieces of a future thought possible. It was a novel. The idea that we could catch up, make up, no time constraint. Speaking of nothing, I lost you. In a stream of memories, enters a miasma of things past, turning into a sea of pages, poems, raging waves echoing through ages and acres. A fist through drywall ended secrets, like the ending of our anthology. The angelic facade was something that we both failed to see through. The places we fled to, chattering indistinctively among the crowds, ears beyond deaf to hear clock ticking, tick-tock, tick-tock, little was the time we had left. I return from the you I was with, stare at myself in the mirror. Makeup ruined now, black streams, smudged mascara. Are you the same too? You and I, pieces of a future thought possible, were pieces from separate jigsaw puzzles. Like a child frustrated with a simple endeavor, I let out a scream. Etches in blue, sketches, pictures and Polaroids depicting you and I, pieces of a past that will never be forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you, Shivani. And you wrote something so personal and relatable because we've all known the end of journeys of friendships where we've had to pass, no matter how precious, and the grief is so real. Thank you so much. Up next, we have Megan Tan. Megan had a conflict in the last minute, and she said, "Can I please send a video?" So I got her video finally late last night, and so here it is. Megan wants to stop. Amidst the air that intoxicates us with ambition and meritocracy that forces us to toil constantly, she questions how we can break this monotony. She uses writing as a form of resistance against the need for pragmatic productivity and hopes that gives her back the agency to become more than a number in our economy. She hopes that you too can be a person once in a while. That was her introduction. Megan Tan.
Hello, my name is Megan Tan and I'll be reading my poem How to Sit in Silence. Sit, cross your legs, close your eyes. Slowly you start to hear the fan whir above you, the twitching of your monstera in the breeze. Is that Claire de Lune on the lilt of your neighbour's Steinway? You scratch your head, the fibres of your neck. What to do with your hands? You have suspended them within vast, expansive space, no emails to type, nor papers to write, even cleaning to do. They sit idly by your side, limp, useless, at rest. Your eyes trace the skeletal carcass of your white, weary walls. Since when was there a copy of Great Expectations in your bookshelf? When did the mirror get so dirty? So that's where you put the screwdriver you lost last week. It's itchy, boredom often is, the shifty texture of the 99% cotton beneath you, the strands of hair that scratch at the temples of your head, the twitching of your little pinky. Has the room always been this suffocating? You cough, sniff, clear your throat, eyelid twitches. You think of what to think of. Decrease dopamine shots, delayed gratification kills you. Fingers long for the caress of a screen, the ding of delight, the ocean of ignorance. You begin sifting through the tasks you were supposed to do if not for this stupid sitting still. This settling of the dust after the everlasting storm reveals lands cracked dry by drought, waters polluted. Slowly you descend down the long list to the neglected bottom. Buy the strawberry cream Dunkin' donut you said you would come back to. Call your grandmother. Walk in botanic gardens to see if the black swan is still there. Send your mother the Hokkien mee she asked for weeks ago. Contemplate the insignificance of human existence. Ask yourself if you are happy. Sit in the emptiness of your heart for a while. Ignore the itching need for the lock to turn on the doors of your soul. And perhaps, if you finally get to it, you would breathe again. Thank you. I hope you enjoy.
Thank you, Megan. I love the last, if I could build a poem of last lines. We've been hit with so many, many beautiful charges, last thoughts, super important. So yeah, once again, I want to remind you that as we wind down the evening, if you can think about the last thought or a theme that you would like to share with our group before we exit, I would be inviting each one of you to read your last lines. Well, not last lines, but your final thoughts or your message that you would like to leave with our poets and our community and our convocation today. Isabel Chong. She's a fourth year English Literature and Art History undergraduate at NTU, an aspiring poet who loves cats, me too, crystals and tea lattes, we can hang. She also enjoys tutoring as a side hustle and is passionate about educating students, and she would love anything that includes drama and fashion. Yes, anything floral and artsy would definitely catch her eye. She writes about feminism, mental illness, and environmentalism. Welcome, Isabel.
Hi, thank you, Camille, for the introduction. It was really energetic. Okay, it's really nice to meet all of you online. I'll be sharing my screen so that you can look at the poem that I've written. So I find it is easier to follow. And I'll be reading my poem, which is titled Sick. Sick. I felt it rise up my throat, catarrh in a wobbly algae clump. Cough, cough, it is not enough. Pincers grab hold of my sides, inflated bags of air. A massive hand slams hard into it. Have you ever seen a worn-out plastic pastry bag, wrinkled old plastic? You should understand. Used many times, too many to count. Only to spurt. Thick buttercream spewing out in swirly marble fondant with greasy yellow-green chyme. The creatures laugh. They think human ejector are such lovely embellishments. Floating hands pick me up, compress, heave. More vor, they implore. It is not a sin. So take it in, take it in. Swallow back your spit. You will never win, they grin. Only for us, beautiful saccharine. vinegar urticating, sweat scintillating, shaking of a pointed index finger. The nails scratch the soft pharynx. Wretch, wretched. Okay, thank you.
All right. That is one of the toughest poems we heard tonight at capturing a very universal experience. Thank you for the reading. Yes, and Richa says that it was so visceral. Totally spot on. On that note, we need to hear from Robert Yo. Robert is competing in a group competition with Soy Avocado, Justin, and Li Ming. Before we get to Robert, I would like us to listen to Li Ming as well. And then after that, it will be followed by Robert. So first Li Ming. Li Ming Liang loves words, whether written, spoken, or sung. She works with them too, though they tend to be a little bit technical. She got her start in poetry with drama works and then joined Soy Avocado in a very special walk fundraiser for Autism Resource Center, and has been participating in both Singapore Poetry Writing Month and Southeast Asia Writing Month. Please join our communities in August as well as in April. And she aspires to write poems that let others experience the world just a little bit differently. All right, Li Ming Liang.
Building Babylon. In the dusty towns of Sicily lived the sons of Senegal, the olive fruits of their labor, filling Italian baskets full but leaving their hearts empty. Because no bells toll for their wounded, and no bells toll for their dead, and no bells toll for the souls carved out and left behind, left in their homeland with those who love them. In the closeness of lockdown dormitories, dusky fingers drum out tattoos, waiting, longing for sunlight and labor, thinking of faraway hunger and the present flatness of wallets. Because no bells toll to bring wisdom, and no bells toll for the gods, and no bells toll for the souls carved out and left behind, left in their homeland with those who love them. And the children of the Middle Kingdom, they too can turn snakehead refugees, picking cockles for foreign masters, lost to the waves and the wind and the hunger for a better life. Because no bells toll for bad decisions, and no bells toll for regret, and no bells toll for the souls carved out and left behind, left in their homeland with those who love them. Yet, all down through the ages, the bells have rung the stages of each nation's countless lives. Their reverberant clangor drowns out distrust and anger, slices egos like a knife. We live in Babylon, built by strangers who have braved so many dangers. Why not look them in the eye? Can we then find lost kindred, hearts exposed and skin extended, perhaps angels in disguise?
Thank you for that poetic visual treat, Li Ming. And we wish you all the best in the competition with Mark. And thank you for taking the time to help people who are often underseen be seen, and not just doing it through words, but through the visual as well. Thank you so much for that. Up next, we have the final member of Between the Lines, Betwixt Between the Lines, who's competing in Singapore right now. Robert Yeo is no stranger to the scene, the poetry and writing playwright scene in Singapore. He says, I am more of a print poet, and my collections are published in the Best of Robert Yeo Epigram Books 2012. I was involved in spoken word poetry when I used to take my SMU creative writing students to spoken word sessions at Zook some years ago. In fact, the spoken word, in particular, Allen Ginsberg, whom I heard in London back in 1967, helped me to loosen my regular verse and move into free verse. I continue to be active, writing a mix of regular and free verse. I enclose a longish rhyme poem called Homage, a small town romance, which was published in a Mekong Review. Last year, there was a podcast of my poems in connection with an installation on a bridge where my poem was inscribed. Lucian, do you have Robert's work? There we go.
Singapore River. These poems are elegies spoken by the river as a personality. The Singapore River is historic and has two identities. The first identity is that of a great trading post and a great spot for Singapore and international painters. She imagined herself as a beautiful woman, a prostitute, much appreciated when she was useful. The second identity was assumed in 1987 when the Singapore River was cleaned up and she lost her identity and became a tourist haven. Singapore River, 1. River now. And when the last boat left, I was myself no more. No more the smelly hall, the way I like myself. The boats were sores, they say. So when my body's cleansed, my soul will be too, if I have any left. The artists will not come, the tourists will not come. But to the young ones, the ones who have not seen me, the old glory, now the old folly, it'll be a new story, though it won't be the same. History, whom I cradle, was forced to flee to the west coast. Well, the consolation is there is Adnan's history there. 2. River before Raffles. We were married before he came. I was not a virgin bride, but with his coming we prospered. Children came and went and stayed. He now seeks another bride. I am too old, he says, too dirty, too unchangeable in my ways. My children were sent chugging to the clean west. Oh, faithless husband, it seems I am your battered bride after all. Oh, history, now that I'm empty, shall I await another? River rooted. Alas, that I'm immortal rooted to a spot. Of course, I can flow in and out, but I'm always there, whether in or out. Not so my husband. He has fled. The only time he's gone, once, and that's enough. Enough is once. He's been taken by force to wed the sea off the west coast. Not the sea, but a sea, a daughter like me of the Pacific. Except she's brand new. Here in Singapore, there are always new daughters of the sea like the eager ones on the east coast, or gleaming ones in the islands south. Not half as lovely as me in my youth, but to my old cock they are clucking hens, even if they cluck in the west coast. The silly west where late the big guns stood, vacantly awaiting the southbound Japanese. River in the future. Now that I'm possibly free, I shall turn freedom to profit, but personal profit. I shall learn to be what I have not been. Forget the historic years when I was used, valued only because I was useful, wife, mother, producer of the country's wealth. A woman first, as I was when Raffles came. I shall learn to be a woman again. He knows that I can be beautiful again. See me at night when I mirror the sky. I reflect now 25 years of what is new. With the gleaming neon-lit towers on both banks. Something I could not do when I was busy and bangboat clock. Now clean, I shine. My night sheen out reveling the drab day of the empty present. Not haven for painters, but for diners and for those for whom beauty's in light and noise.
Everyone, give it up for Robert Yeo. The voice of the Singapore River and what she represents in our history and what it means to be clean and unclean and the shifts in life and identity. All right, we are coming to the end of our program. I have one poem for you, then I will invite each one of you to share your takeaway line with me, and then I will close us out. Before I do that, I want to thank Eric Vallis and Poetry Festival of Singapore, Charlotte Greenall for being my lovely, lovely support from Poetry Festival of Singapore. I would like to thank my co-host Lucian Tan for the technical support and as well as his reading. And to each one of you, I thank you for your time and your talent and your community that you have brought here to share this very secret time together. And so I'll be looking forward to hearing your last words to our community after I read my poem, and then I will close us off with a benediction. All right. This is called Uncharted. Behind the wheel, my hands tremble. I captain this helm, the safety of lives on board. How heavy is the soul the ship weighs on me. They say the future is a beacon. I fear uncharted waters, no map, no sextant, the cloud shroud night sentinels of storm bruise, thunderclouds blacken like tossing waves. I doubt my decisions, my sense of commission and omission, consequences, roads taken, untaken, unfiltered, regrets, remorse, a bitter residue remains. I send a flare. To whom shall I pray? Saint Elmo, Brendan, Adjutor, or to Petronilla, patron saint to the dolphins? Grant me the skills to moor. Grant me a body that is seaworthy. Grant me a sturdy anchor for when I reach harbor. In your mercy, hear my prayer. Churning, yearning, slam with silence, no Coast Guard rescue signals. Where's the lighthouse? I sink. I drown. I, undone, am done at the bottom, here at the final destination. Upon arrival, a single passenger alights. Only I disembark. Captain and passenger are one. I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm still. All right, everybody unmute. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you for staying with us, those brave souls who have stayed with us for 2 hours and a half. This is a marathon, but I thank you all for keeping everything tight, and I look forward to sharing this video with Eric and Poetry Festival of Singapore so that they can put it in the website. But you guys have done marvelously, and thank you for being here. So I'm going to call on us, the last ones, to share what you take away from this evening. One sentence encapsulated, and celebrate with our, this is our celebration, okay? I'm going to invite Aradna. What would you like to share and speak to our poets?
It was lovely to hear poems from all the poets coming from India, US, Singapore. It was lovely. Like, I've never been on this kind of a journey, poetic journey. This evening was like memorable evening indeed. Thank you so much, Kim, and everyone, please.
Thank you, Aradna. Diane Murray Ward.
I came away with an overall feeling of reminding us to respect ourselves, nature. We're all one, and I think we need to be reminded of that sometimes and be grateful of what we have and of each other.
Couldn't say it better, Diane. Kara.
Oh, I think apart from writing poetry recitation is also should be a significant art form, because I think when it comes to appreciating poetry, we should study both the textual and auditory aspects together to better appreciate the poem and the artistic intent behind it.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Isabel.
Hi, I think it was really nice hearing how everyone had different experiences, and it's like hearing from how everyone else had like different like cultures from myself. And I think that even though each of us have our own personal struggles, we also might have like a universal experience that all of us might have gone through, like the one about losing a friend. I think that was really nice. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Jane Lynn. Jane Lynn might not be able to unmute right now. That's okay. Jaslyn.
Well, I found it really touching that so many people came together with like the sole purpose of sharing poetry. And I thought it was really cool to see the wide variety of like different age ranges and cultures, and it was just really an enriching and fruitful session. Yeah.
Thanks, Jaslyn. Yeah, the diversity from backgrounds as well as ages, just listening to all your voices. Jyoti.
Yeah, it was like a rainbow conference of poetry, and I really enjoyed being here and listening to such wonderful intellectual sharings. It was like very enriching, memorable experience for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Look
Jyoti.
forward to the next one.
Yay. Kawasami.
Hearing everyone recite their poems and you know, speaking and reciting their poems was an experience that I don't think anyone would get simply every day, especially hearing all these poems at one go. So it really opened my eyes to how different cultures have changed how people wrote poetry and whatnot. And I really appreciate it, and I am really happy to have heard all these poems.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here too. Now I'm going to invite Charlotte. What was your impression of? I know you were also helping host, but you were so active in chat. Thank you so much for encouraging everyone. What was your impression, your takeaway?
Um, first off, I just want to say, thank you to everyone who read the poems today. It was very, very nice to hear everything. I definitely haven't been for one of these events in quite a while. So it's nice to be back in this kind of community setting. I think one line that really stuck with me was from Kelvin's poem, and it was, I think, catharsis is not merely release, giving up, letting go. It is recovery, coming to terms, and finding oneself. And I jotted down something earlier, and I think I just want to leave everyone with this, just to keep in mind. When all hope is lost, you stay to look for it, because in every human, dead or alive, the colors that bloom within are the cures to finding your hope. So I just want to leave everyone with that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. Hui Hui put in the chat, thank you everyone for your reading. Sorry I was in the kitchen earlier. So happy to hear the diversity of voices. Yay, thank you for that. Eric, you've been a quiet participant. Thank you for joining us. What's your
Thank
takeaway?
you very much, Hamlin, Lucian, and all. So I have confirmed that we are all in pain, but we can take some comfort in each other through verse, and each one of you is a star, but together we form a great constellation. Thank you very much, Camlin and Lucian.
Thank you, Eric, for that. And thank you for congratulations on a fantastic conference. From those who have reported back to me, it's been exciting to be in all the different venues. And thank you for giving Between the Lines the opportunity to be a part of this. Lucian, you've been my powerhouse. I thank you so much for being my partner in crime. Between the Lines wouldn't be what it is without you. A lot of the ethos and the care and the love comes because of the conversations that we share together. What is your last thoughts to these poets?
As I experienced your creativity and artistry, I take away the notion that the stress and discomfort experienced while sojourning is an opportunity to embrace humility, temper hubris, and celebrate humanity.
So, my dear poets, we are lovable, we are capable, we are valuable, we are able to sojourn through this world with fullness of heart, emotions, our gifts and talents and time that we can bless others with. We are strangers in a strange land. We have nobody to call our own. We climb the mountains and walk through valleys. We sing our victories and mourn our lows. We are aliens in a tired world. Where goes our soul? Where goes our soul? We are born and we grow old. Is there a heaven where I'll be whole? Is there a heaven? On behalf of Between the Lines and Poetry Festival Singapore, may you all be blessed until we meet again online or in person or in the next future, our next chapter and verse. Be blessed, everyone. Good night.